Time travel, it just, it always grabs you, doesn't it? This idea of seeing history, actually witnessing moments we only read about, it's fascinating. But forget actually going there for a sec. What if you could just see it? Like, imagine a machine built right here that could show you scenes from the past, visuals, sounds, everything. And here's the picker. What if this potentially world-changing tech was tied up with, the Vatican, one of the most secretive institutions out there?
Exactly. That's the core of the legend we're digging into today. Our sources focus on this device called the Chronovisor. We're basically going to unpack the claims around its invention, what it supposedly did, the whole Vatican connection, and also the big wave of skepticism around it all.
Right. So our mission is simple. Using only the information from the sources provided, we're going to walk through the Chronovisor story. We'll lay out the claims, look at the so-called evidence, and then cover the counter-arguments, just so you get the full picture of this really, really wild legend. Okay, let's dive in. So where did this all kick off? How did it even become a public thing?
Well, it really burst onto the scene, according to our source, because of one specific newspaper article. An Italian paper, L'Arena.
Oh, yeah. When was this?
May 2nd, 1972. And the headline, it was designed to grab you. Finally, a machine to photograph the past has been invented. Just like that.
Wow. Okay. And who was making this claim?
The central figure was Father Marcello Ernetti. And he wasn't your typical claimant. The source paints him as this really interesting mix, a Catholic priest, sure, but also knew physics, astronomy, a theologian, musician.
And an exorcist. It says he wrote a book about it.
Yeah, even an exorcist.
Yeah.
So not just some random guy. He had this very somewhat credible background, which maybe lent the claim some weight initially.
Okay, so what was Ernetti actually saying? What was the core claim?
His main assertion, reported then and later, was pretty specific. He said that around 1950, he and a team, 12 scientists, he claimed invented this thing, the Chronovisor.
Right, the Chronovisor. And what was it supposed to be exactly? Not like a TARDIS or a DeLorean, right?
No, not for travel. More like, well, based on Ernetti and sources like Father Francois Brun's book, The New Vatican Secret from 2002, it was like a screen, almost like a historical television, yeah. It could supposedly display past events, visually and audibly.
So the idea was the team would just, gather around?
Kind of, yeah. Gather around the screen, tune it to a specific time and place, and just watch history unfold.
Imagine that, the possibilities. So what did they supposedly see?
Well, Ernetti mentioned some pretty spectacular stuff. He talked about watching a speech by Cicero, the Roman orator, back in 63 BC.
Cicero, he described him.
Yeah, supposedly described his powerful personality, the way his voice changed, things like that.
Okay, what else?
Even more dramatically, maybe, he claimed they saw a performance of a lost Roman play by Quintus Ennius, 2nd century BC.
A lost play, just saw it.
And here's the kicker. He didn't just say he saw it. He apparently produced a written transcript of this supposedly lost play.
A transcript? Whoa, okay. Anything else? Biblical stuff.
Uh-huh. Mentioned seeing the destruction of Sodom and Gomorrah. And then the really big ones. Viewing the last days of Jesus Christ, the Last Supper, the betrayal, the arrest, the crucifixion.
The crucifixion. And wasn't there a photo involved?
Yes. That brings us to the sort of key piece of physical evidence presented. That original 1972 newspaper article. It included a photograph. Father Ernetti claimed that picture, showing the crucifixion, was captured directly from the Chronovisor screen.
Okay, so you've got this machine, these amazing viewings, a photo, and the Vatican is woven into all of this.
Deeply woven, according to Ernetti. He claimed the project wasn't just, happening at the Vatican. He said it was commissioned by the Vatican.
Commissioned by them, so assembled and tested inside the Vatican walls.
Supposedly, yes. With the Pope, Pius XII at the time, and other officials apparently observing.
And why? What was the Vatican's alleged goal?
The source suggests they wanted to use it to verify things, to learn more about events in the Bible, other sacred texts, sort of a historical truth machine for them.
But Ernetti kept it secret for years.
He claimed he'd sworn an oath of secrecy, yeah, and that he only broke it when he talked to Father Francois Brun, which led to that book coming out.
Right. And then there was the team. He eventually named some famous scientists, didn't he? Much later on.
He did, but only in 1992, just before he died. That's when he named two very famous figures.
Who were they?
Enrico Fermi, the Nobel laureate physicist, architect of the nuclear age.
Wow, Fermi. And
Wernher von Braun, the rocket scientist, from Nazi Germany's V2 program, then later, NASA.
Fermi and von Braun, on the same secret Vatican time viewer team.
That was the claim. But the timing is, it's a major issue, isn't it?
Oh, so?
He names them in 92. Fermi died in 1954. Von Braun died in 1977.
Ah, so they were long gone, couldn't confirm or deny it.
Exactly. Impossible to verify their involvement. And the source mentions the other 10 scientists were never named. Still anonymous.
Okay, so what supposedly happened to this incredible machine, if it existed?
Well, according to Renetti, and Bruns' book again, Pope Pius XII got worried. He apparently thought the chronovisor was just too dangerous.
Too dangerous? How?
Afraid of it falling into the wrong hands, basically. What someone could do with that kind of power. So the Pope supposedly banned any talk about it, and Ernetti claimed it was eventually dismantled. Destroyed.
Dismantled and destroyed. But not everyone believes that part, right? The source mentions conspiracy theories.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Lots of people believe it wasn't destroyed at all, that it was just hidden away.
Hidden where? In the Vatican?
Deep inside the Vatican archives, yeah. One of their biggest secrets. And that secrecy, whether it was destroyed or hidden, that's the explanation given for why there's no, technical data, no blueprints, nothing public.
Okay. So that's the story, the legend, incredible claims. Yeah. But there's another side to this, isn't there? A lot of skepticism.
A huge amount of skepticism. Yeah, this is definitely not something accepted by, mainstream science or history, and for good reasons.
What are the main criticisms? What does the source point to?
Well, first off, skeptics point to science fiction. There was apparently a novel from 1947.
Before Ernetti's claimed invention date.
Exactly. Published before 1950. And this novel described a very similar machine, one that could view the past. So was Ernetti inspired by fiction? Maybe.
Interesting. What about the evidence he provided, like that play transcript?
Right. The Quintus Ennius play. That's got some big problems, according to experts mentioned in the source. A researcher named Catherine looked at it. Her analysis, it was way too short for a Roman play.
Too short.
Yeah, and the structure was all wrong compared to known plays from that era. And maybe the biggest red flag.
What's that?
It apparently used Latin words and phrases that didn't even exist in Ennius's time.
Yeah.
They came into use like 200 years after he lived.
Oh, that's pretty damning, isn't it? A clear anachronism?
You'd strongly suggest the text wasn't genuinely from the 2nd century BC, yeah.
Okay, and the photo, the crucifixion picture, what do skeptics say about that?
They have a much simpler explanation. They think it's not from a time machine at all.
So where's it from?
They suggest it's just a copy, maybe reversed, of a postcard. A postcard showing a wooden sculpture of the crucifixion.
A sculpture from a church somewhere in Italy.
Something like that, yeah. A known, existing piece of art, just photographed and maybe manipulated slightly, not a view of the actual event.
So specific problems with the evidence. What about just the basic science?
Well, yeah, there's the fundamental issue that zero scientific sources, no peer-reviewed papers, nothing, confirms a device like the Chronovisor is even theoretically possible, let alone built.
And how does this fit with what science does say about time? The source touches on that.
Right. So Einstein's theories, relativity, they do allow for time dilation.
Yeah.
Traveling to the future. Theoretically possible if you go incredibly fast.
But going to the past.
That's where it gets really tricky. Huge paradoxes, massive theoretical hurdles. People like Stephen Hawking, Kip Thorne, they've explored how difficult, maybe impossible that is. The source even mentions one physicist who wondered maybe time travel isn't physical at all, but more like mental, tied to how we perceive reality. Kind of out there, but it shows the debate.
Okay, and briefly, what about religion? Did the source mention any religious takes on time travel itself?
It did touch on that. It noted that, traditional Jewish and Christian texts don't really talk about time travel directly.
Right, unless you count the Chronovisor story itself, I guess.
Right, unless you see that as some kind of theological exploration of the idea.
And Islam.
There, the source points to a bit of a debate. Some scholars feel that knowing the future, or maybe even viewing the past like this, might conflict with the idea that only God knows the unseen.
But not all scholars.
No. Others argue that scientific research is actually encouraged. It mentions a 2021 fatwa from Egypt.
A fatwa. About time travel.
Yeah, basically saying that researching time travel isn't heresy. So even within religion, it's complex, generates discussion.
Okay. So, wrapping this up, the Chronovisor. It's this incredible story, isn't it? A time-viewing machine, this fascinating priest, maybe Fermi and von Braun, the Vatican secret, the photo, the transcript.
And then all the counter-arguments. The sci-fi link, the problems with the playtext, the postcard theory for the photo, the lack of any scientific backing.
It really leaves you hanging, doesn't it? That central mystery. Was any of it real?
Was Ernetti telling a truth, mistaken, or perpetrating a hoax? Was the photo real evidence? Did the Vatican really have this thing and hide it or destroy it? Or is it just a really good story, a legend, maybe sparked by fiction.
It definitely taps into that deep human desire to know what really happened, to see the past, makes you think, if a device like that did exist, or if you could somehow just look back, what moment would you want to see?
Yeah. And that kind of brings us to the final thought, the big question this whole story raises. If we could see history directly, truly unfiltered, what would that do to us? Could it completely shatter what we think we know, settle old arguments, maybe reveal historical truths as inaccuracies? It forces you to think about truth itself, how we understand the past, and maybe the limits of reality.